Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This video was requested by my friend Yvette, who's just getting started in yoga. So I told her I would put together a very basic beginner practice for her. So this is going to be hopefully about 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes in total, so that it's just a very basic flow that I hope most of us can do. As you know, for those of you who practice with me, I'm a big fan of props. My favorite prop of choice right now are cork blocks. I've been working with the foam blocks forever, and for me, a person who's in an abundant body, I find sometimes that the cork blocks give me a little bit more stability, so I'm going to use them throughout the practice today. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. I just like them because they create more stability. So if you don't have these blocks, they're sometimes called bricks as well, you can use a hardcover thick book, like something that Norman Mailer wrote, something just really thick and heavy, something with stability. A hardcover or really thick paperback works really well. These blocks you can buy at Untitled Chapters, Barnes & Noble, Target, I'm trying to think, Canadian West, Canadian Tire, the Superstore. You can get these pretty much anywhere. And now, Yvette, that you're into online shopping, you can buy these online as well. So I like to just have a set of blocks as a newbie because sometimes our flexibility is needs some work. So this is going to help with making the poses more accessible. I'm right now sitting up on a bolster, otherwise known as just a really big pillow. I also encourage people who are new to yoga to sit on an elevated seat because most of our lives in North America are spent sitting seated, where our hip flexors are in constant flexion. So our hips tend to be tight. So if you can sit up on a block or bolster, it helps the knees descend a little bit down to the floor. So if you're looking at my knees, you'll notice that my knees are in a downward trajectory from my hip points because my seat is elevated. So I always encourage people to sit up on a bolster, a block, a pillow, you can sit in a chair, you can kneel, whatever makes it, the most sense for you. So let's start by connecting to our breath. So this is one of the only practices in which we actively connect with our breath. And the basis of our yoga practice is not necessarily the asana, which is what we're going to do today, which is a name for the poses, but it's a connection to the breath and ultimately a connection to our soul. And it is my understanding, or my feeling is, until we connect to ourselves and begin to understand who we are and what we believe, it's going to be really difficult to authentically connect with others. So this is big for me in my practice. So let's start by just closing our eyes. And for those of you who are brand new to the yoga practice, I don't want to create any anxiety around focusing on your breath. So just breathe in your natural, normal way, in the way that makes the most sense to you. And you can place your hands wherever they feel comfortable. So deep inhales in and deep exhales out, just in the way that you normally breathe. Just deepen the breath. Good. So then I'm going to invite you now to come into your breath a little bit more deeply. So go ahead and close your lips if that feels comfortable. Breathing in through your nose and just perhaps making the inhalations and the exhalations a little bit longer. So inhaling for a count of 2 and perhaps exhaling for a count of 2. So I find as a beginner we're really anxious to get moving into the practice because perhaps this is really about movement and exercise for us. But we really want to remember that this practice is going to be a mindful movement, so it's really important to connect with your breath. So throughout this practice, I want you to remember that if you feel like you're having a hard time catching your breath, that means you're going too quickly. If you're struggling with your breath, again, we want to back up a bit, and we want to be aware of what good sensations are. So, you might have a rise in your body temperature, it may become a little bit difficult, or your breath may become challenged, but not to the point that you're struggling. okay? So your body may become heated, you may sweat a little bit, you may feel stretch that is, you may feel stretch, I should say, but not sharp shooting pain. I want you to remember that these are good sensations in your body, the sensation of movement. So if you were to go on a brisk walk, the sensation of maybe your heart rate elevated or your breath a little bit faster is a good sensation if you go on a brisk walk or if you're a runner. If you're feeling pressure behind your eyes, in your face, in your chest, these are bad sensations, and these are not things that we want to continue. We need to slow down or stop altogether. So if you're feeling those things, sharp shooting pain, these are bad sensations, and I want you to take a step back from the practice. So it's always important to check in with your breath and to connect with your body. So as a beginning student, I want you to cut yourself some slack if you don't get the poses right away, if you're having trouble or difficulty. You can always type in the description box below or send me an email if some of the things you find challenging or we're struggling with, and I'm happy to do more videos to help this out. For those of you who are watching me for the first time, I have an online yoga studio called yogastea.com, and I break down a lot of this stuff all the time. So if you're interested in continuing practicing with me, you can find me there. So let's start on our hands and knees. So for those of us with sensitive knees, I'm going to invite you to take a blanket and place it underneath your knees. Remember, this is going to be a pretty basic practice. So you can place it just underneath your knees. There's lots of other products out there that you can use. I also like to use sometimes a gardening mat if that's helpful. And then we really want to make sure to connect with our fingertips, right? So I want you to come right up onto the tips of your fingers. Take your knees out a little bit wider, up onto the tips of the fingers, and just push into the finger pads and try to like you're trying to pull something up off the floor. So you're drawing energy into the center of your hand. And then really go ahead and start to move the spine. So this is called cat-cow. You'll notice that my toes are turned under. I'm up onto my fingertips just to start to feel the movement. And for me, coming up onto the fingertips sometimes creates a little bit more space in my shoulders. And what you're going to do is on your exhale, you'll round the spine like a Halloween cat. And on an inhale, you'll soften the belly to the mat and tip the sitting bones back. So once you're here for a few and you start to feel what's going on perhaps in your back, a little bit in your neck, let's start to come down onto the finger pads or the knuckles. You notice that my wrists are still lifted. We're really pushing into the pads of the finger and the knuckles because we want to make sure we have good hand placement, that we don't hurt our wrists. And then gently I'm going to bring the rest of the hand down to the floor, clawing the mat, pulling the fingertips in toward the center of the hand. So once again, I'm drawing in. And then I'm going to rock back and forth in this movement. Now, take your knees out a little bit wider, make space for your body. You can take your knees back further and just roll forward and back. And I want you to observe your breath, observe what you're feeling in your body. I have a very curvy back, so anything that allows my bottom to come back toward my heels, I feel sensation in my back. I feel stretch, maybe I feel a little bit of discomfort, but I know it's because my back needs a stretch. So I'm one of these people who can't lay on my stomach without hurting my back. And it's unfortunate because that's my favorite place to lay. Okay, so let's come back to our tabletop position. We're going to do what's called a little bit of spinal balance. Making sure your pinky fingers are probably just touching the edge of the mat or slightly off the mat, just a little bit bigger here. We're going to send the right leg straight back behind us and the left fingertips out in front of us. I have a little bit of a tremor you might notice because I have a hyperactive thyroid, so sometimes that's what shows up for me. So if you're finding that, it's okay, it's a little bit of a shake. Plant your left hand, take your right toe to the floor, pivot and plant your right foot. And what I'm going to do is take my left toes out like a kickstand. And then I'm going to open my chest to the sky. Good. And release down. And let's do the second side. So come back to tabletop, left leg back, right fingertips forward. Okay. Good. Take another breath here. And then plant the left hand, right toes to the floor, pivot and plant, and then kickstand out to the right and lift the left arm up. Good. And let's come back to tabletop. Now we're going to make our way onto our belly. I'm going to remove the blanket out from underneath me and place it off to the side. And then I'm going to come onto my belly And I'm not going to be here for long. I do need to do this exercise to strengthen my back, even though laying here for any length of time is uncomfortable for me. So here's what happens. Are the heels splay out to the side. So I'm going to ask you to bring the inner edges of your feet together, and I'm going to ask you to squeeze your thighs together. You'll notice when you squeeze your thighs together, your pelvic floor lifts, so let everything go, and then pull it in. So I want you to squeeze in that area. Lift your pelvic floor, pull the shoulder blades away from the floor, and then lift the chest a little bit. Exhale and lower. This is Cobra, okay? Cobra Pose. Let's try it again. Lift up a little bit higher maybe, and release, and then maybe one more time. A little bit higher. So I'm pressing into my hands, trying to relax my shoulders, chest forward. Exhale and release. Press into your hands, and then come back to tabletop position. Walk your hands over to the right, and then step your left foot forward, all the way to the edge of the mat. You can take both hands to the left knee, and then inhale, reach the arms to the sky. So I'm going to invite you just to stay here and feel the stretch in the front of the body. Observe the breath in the body. Or I'm going to use blocks here. You can bring your fingertips to either side of your leg, and let's lift the back leg up. Okay, so you can play with knee down lunge or knee up lunge. Knee lines up with the ankle. Lengthen the spine forward. Good. Now go ahead and step the right foot forward, and I'm going to walk closer to the top of my mat, and then I'm going to step the left leg back. So your first option is to stay here with the knee, okay? Pad the back knee if you need to, and you can lengthen forward with the chest, or curl the back toes under, push out through the back heel, and stay here. You can also, if it feels comfortable, and you have balance, sometimes balance works, sometimes it doesn't, you can lift your arms to the sky. Take a few breaths here. This might be a little bit of a challenge. And then hands back to the floor, both feet step together. Now for our purposes today, our feet are going to be about 2 fists width apart. Soften the knees, push the bottom out behind you, push into the feet and come up to standing. So now, especially if we have a sore back, we always want to engage energy into our legs. So feet are about 2 fists width apart, push down into the mat and energetically widen the mat with your feet. Lengthening out of the roof of your mouth. Inhale, reach your arms high to the sky. Exhale, bend at the knees, fold forward. And if it's available to you, you can touch the earth, or you can use your blocks here. Good. Inhale, you're going to come up to a flat back. So just look forward, pressing your sitting bones back. Exhale and fold, and then go ahead and step your right foot as far to the back of the mat as you can. Pivot and plant your right foot, bend into the square of your left knee, and then inhale into a warrior 2. Stretch your arms out nice and long. You're going to make sure that your knee comes over your ankle. The back of your foot is pushing down into the back edge of your foot, push into the mound of the big toe, and think of your hips and shoulders facing forward or the long edge of the mat, knee facing toward the top of your mat. For those of us with sore shoulders, warrior looks like this. For those of us who want to extend out through the arms, you want to line up your shoulders. So sometimes this happens, right? Go ahead and line up your shoulders, bend into the square of your knee. Good. Hands to the waist. Now go ahead and turn this front leg, your left leg forward. So now if you look at my feet, the outer edges of my feet are parallel to the longer edges of, or the shorter edges of my mat. I'm energetically pushing my legs apart, leading with the heart, softening the knees, fold forward. And now you can just place your hands on the earth. Now bend your knees a lot, and then lift your sitting bones. So another way of saying that is just kind of stick your butt out and fold forward. So I'm walking my hands back behind me because this is what feels good for me, but your hands can stay out in front of you if you like, okay? Again, with my sore back, I find that this pose is super helpful for stretching it out. This is also a really great hip opener. So now I'm going to soften my knees, hands to my thighs, lift with my heart, and then I'm going to turn the right toes out to the back of the mat. Knee lines up with the ankle, push out with the back leg. Think of your hips shoulders stacking over each other. Really energetically push the legs apart. And then you have to watch with your arms. I have a sore shoulder here, so sometimes it looks like this. So we're going to lengthen out. Or if your shoulder is sore, I like to put my hand on my waist and push away with the hand. Now we're going to add an extended side angle pose. Watch that the knee is not buckling in towards the center. Rotate it out. Bend into the square of the knee. Forearm to the thigh. Rotate through the chest. Arm to the sky or hand to the waist. This is called extended side angle pose. This is the beginner or the first in the series of poses that progress here. Stay here. And then come up. Straighten out that front leg. Turn the right toes forward. Soften the knees. Fold forward. Widen the heels apart slightly. Good. And then just let everything fold. Take your time. Good. Soften the knees. Hands to the waist. Come all the way up. And then go ahead and turn the left toes out. Push out through the back heel. Go ahead and take your left forearm to the thigh. Right hand to the waist, and I'm going to rotate this whole chest open, release, and then reach. Now making sure that our knee is bent, pushing my legs apart energetically, opening my heart, rotate and open. Good, take a breath. Beautiful. This time we're going to transition into down dog. So if you like, blocks are really fun here. I'll use my blocks. This gives me a little bit of space to push back. So pushing into my hands, this is on the blocks. If you're choosing to do this without the blocks, bend into the knees so your both hands come to the floor. Push off with your left foot and think of a big inverted V. Spread your fingertips out, bend your knees, lift your sitting bones, roll your heels down. Push into your hands and push the floor away from you. Now from here, inhale. Shoulders over wrists, top of a push-up. Exhale, lower down. And then we're going to bring our chest to the floor. So squeeze your elbows in towards your rib cage and lower down. So you might remember this from earlier. This is your Cobra Pose. Hands alongside the heart. Rotate the shoulders back. Squeeze the legs together. Squeeze your kegels. Lift your pelvic floor and roll through Cobra. And then come back through knees. Back to downward facing dog. Now I'm going to have you walk your hands back towards your feet. This is a good stretch for the hamstrings. Soften your knees. Inhale, reach your arms high to the sky. Exhale, walk to the top of your mat. So let's put what we've learned together into a little flow. So coming to the top of your mat, feet about 2 fist width apart. Push down into your feet, widen the mat apart. Firm the belly, curl the shoulders back, lift out of the roof of the mat. Inhale, circle arms up. Exhale, fold at the waist, and either bring your fingertips to the earth, or you can use your props or your blocks here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Right leg all the way back. So I'm going to walk the blocks back so they're in line with my heel. You can either lower your knee down or keep it high. You can keep your hands on the blocks or you can reach for the sky. So go ahead and choose. Excellent. And then bring your hands to the blocks or to the earth. Step your right foot forward and your left foot back. Remember, we're observing our breath. Option 1, knee down. Okay, you can stay here. Option 2, you can stay here. Option 3, you can come to the sky. So you get to pick whatever's working for you today. Good. And hands back to the mat or to the block. Step your feet together. And then step your right foot back. Turn your toes out to the long edge of your mat. Front toes are pointing forward. Knee comes over ankle. Hip bones are facing the long edge of the mat. Shoulders are facing the long edge of the mat. Pull the body in, pull the belly in, push out through the heel. And the reason we firm our belly is just to stabilize our torso, okay? There's a lot of stretch going on in the hips because we're rotate it outwards, so just give yourself an opportunity to find your balance. Then we'll take our our left forearm to the thigh, right arm up and over the ear. Rotate the chest. We're going to open the chest open. Arm up and over the ear. Good. Beautiful. Now, you can either bring hands to the block or hands to the floor. And what you're going to do is turn the left toe to the long edge of the mat, bend the knee, widen the sitting bones, fold forward. Good. And you always want to make sure, as I'm just noticing now, that your feet are lined up. So make sure that you can kind of draw a straight line between the arches of your feet, just so that they're not staggered. And then inhale, hands to the knees, come up, turn your right toes out to the back of your mat, bend into the square of the knee, really widen your stance, widen your knee out to the right. And what I like to do is do a big circle with the arms. Warrior two, and then extended side angle, so right elbow to the thigh, rotate the body open, arm up and over the ear. Now really make sure that you're keeping that knee in line with the ankle and that you're not collapsing inward. Good, and now come back through warrior two. And here's what I'm going to do. Bending my knees, you can either use blocks here, bring your fingertips to the floor, watch my back toe, pivoting on the back toe, and you can either lower the back knee down and come to tabletop, or you can step back into downward facing dog. Okay, so go back and look at your feet, make sure you're about 2 fists width apart, bend your knees, lift your sitting bones, root your heels back, and then on the inhale, come forward to top of a push-up, lower your knees down, and then bend your elbows, lower yourself down. Hug your legs together and lift your chest. Good. Release, push into your hands, and let's come back to tabletop, and then let's come back to seated. Here's where you want to sit up on your blanket or your bolster, and I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together. This is called Cobblers Pose or Butterfly Pose. I'm going to hang on to the ankles, bring my elbows just gently to the inside of my knees. I'm gently going to push down as I push up. I'm going to lengthen my chest forward and take the stretch. Now I feel a lot of sensation in my hips, which is good, which is what I want. Tend to have sore hips. But if it's too much sensation for you, you can often use blocks. You see how I prop blocks underneath, again, your books here? Okay, or you can walk your feet further out away from you. So you can simply make the diamond bigger if you would like less sensation. So on the flip side, if you want more sensation, you can bring the heels closer to the body. But you just work with what you have, right? There's no right or wrong as to the distance. It's about the sensation that you're feeling in your body. Good. Beautiful. And then inhale, lift the head and the heart when you're ready. And what I'm going to do is take the right heel, tuck it underneath the left thigh, and plant the left foot in front. So we're going to take a twist here. I sometimes like to bring a block behind me just for a little bit more stability. This is my right leg. I'm going to take my right hand, hold the front of my right knee, and then I'm going to hitchhike back with my left hand, place it either on the block or the floor. Inhale, I'm going to lengthen, and exhale, I'm going to twist. Now, if your belly kind of makes it hard to twist, you can simply just grab your belly and move it out of the twist so that you can twist a little bit deeper if that feels better. And this is really great if you have osteoarthritis in your low back and spine. Twisting helps to lubricate the joints and just bring blood flow and movement to those areas. And then let's do the second side. So my left leg, I'm just kind of tucking it under my right, bending my right knee. And again, if you want the block behind you, just to bring the floor closer, you can. This is my left hand, holding my outer knee, and then lengthening as I push through my sitting bones and twisting. And again, you want to just move your belly into the twist, you might get a little bit deeper. Good. Come back through center, and now we're going to make our way onto our back. So a couple of suggestions for backs. If you have a sensitive back like I do, come down onto your side, lower down, and come onto your back. If your back isn't sensitive and you want to roll down, really bend the knees, reach the arms out in front of you, and roll down slowly. So what we're going to do next is a little stretch for our hamstrings. Right toes to the sky. Lace your fingertips behind your thigh. Another thing you could do here, I'm just looking for my strap, is if you have a strap, you can bring a strap around the back of the thigh. I lost my strap, I'm not sure where it is, but you'll get the general idea. Pretend you have a strap here. Good. And then cross the left or the right ankle over the left knee. Option one is to stay here, taking the right hand and just gently pushing the floor or the leg away from you. Second is to bring the left knee into the chest. That's just if you want more sensation. And third, you might want to lace your fingertips behind the bottom leg. You might not. So remember, just kind of work out where in the asana you want to be or is most beneficial for your body. How will you know that? You will listen to the sensation, where I feel stretch, where I feel pain, where I feel pressure. And when you feel those things, you want to stop, okay? You have nothing to prove here. Good. Now both feet to the floor, left leg to the sky. Lace the fingertips behind your thigh. Flex the toes back toward the nose. Okay, and when you're ready, you can choose your options. This is an option here, left hand on the thigh, gently lengthen the thigh away. Option number 2 is to just bring the knee into the chest. You can also just like rest it here. Another option is here. Good. And then release both feet to the floor. And now what we do is a little bit of a rest practice. Why do we do this? In yoga pose or in yoga practice, we want to allow our central nervous system to catch up to what's going on in our bodies, to allow sensation to kind of sink in. So there's a rest at the end of yoga practice, and it's traditionally called Savasana. So what that looks like for most people is legs out, arms out, in a relaxed pose, otherwise known as corpse. So there's another ideology that we've created this practice and we've set our body on a new course. So the old idea of who we are dies and we're reborn after corpse, after this very spiritual and connected practice. Another physiological explanation for corpse pose is the body's opportunity to relax and the central nervous system's opportunity to reset after the practice. That's the physiological thought behind it. So for me, because I'm booty-tastic, I can't do this pose without it hurting my back. So my options are to let my knees fall in on each other like this and relax. And remember, this part of the practice is as important as the movement of the practice. Here in Western philosophy, we think resting is weakness, but it's not. Or I prop my legs up on the block. So let's just take a few moments to return to our breathing. You can return to your natural normal breath. Me personally, I like to just do a breathing practice of breathing a little bit deeper in Savasana. I find it super relaxing. So we're going to do this for about 2 minutes. So I want you just to find a space where you can relax. You can even lay on your side if this is not relaxing for you, and just come back to your breath. Wonderful. Now let's start to awaken. So we start by just doing little movements. So maybe fluttering our fingers and wiggling our toes. If you're propped up, maybe you like to bring your knees into your chest. If that's something that feels like a good idea, you can just kind of rock side to side or roll your knees in a circle. Good. And then when you're ready, you can roll to your favorite side and just rest here for a moment. And then push yourself up to seated. So we like to close the energy of our practice and to give thanks to those of us who perhaps shared with us, to give thanks to the teacher for showing up and sharing their energy, and ultimately to give thanks to yourself for making this part of your awareness and part of your practice. So I hope you enjoyed the practice, and if you want more, you can join me on yogasteya.com. I'll put a link in the description box below, and hopefully I will see you again. Namaste.